Welcome to the Rap Soul Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of music that moves our hearts and gets our feet tapping. This is the intersection of rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We appreciate you for listening. Share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. The podcast is hosted by 12 Kyle. Next up, the Rap Soul Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your host, 12 Kyle. This is the intersection where hip-hop and R&B from the 2000s, the 90s, and the 80s meet. And on this episode, what we're going to talk about is a new series that we're going to do. It's called The Three-Peat. It's where we take an artist and we take their first three albums and we talk about them in a championship mode. And on this episode, this one's special to me because we're going to be talking about three albums that I really, really do love and an artist that I really do love. That is a three-peat from the one, the only Kendrick Lamar. And I got some family in the building, man. Coming to the podcast for the first time, not a stranger to the show. Me and this guy go way back. Dead End Hip Hop. We did Dead End Sports for so many years. This is my brother. BZ430 is in the building. B, what up, though?
What up, though? What up, brother Kyle? Thank you for having me, sir. Thank you.
Listen, I didn't tell you this, but I've been planning this for a long time.
Really? Oh,
yes.
Man.
Yes, this has been in my notes for a minute, man. I was like, I got it. I want to do this one. And I was like, I got to get B on to do it.
We got to do a three-peat one to Rakim Eric B too. We got to do a three-peat on that one.
We got to because we
have
some interesting
yes, we got to
feelings about that.
We got to.
But before I even get started, man, congrats again, brother. Recently tied the knot. I was at his reception. Beautiful reception, man.
Thank you for coming out, man. I had only the important people, the most important people in my life there, and I'm glad you was there to be a part of it, man. So that was dope.
We had a good time, and I said that with Nick, man. We were cracking up
the
whole time.
That's why I put y'all there too. I was like, I was like, if I can't get Kyle with Ken and them, I'm gonna put him with Nick, and they gonna have a good time at that table.
We had a good time, man. It was a beautiful affair, man. The only thing I regret, man, I didn't get a chance to really holler at your dad. Your dad was moving around.
Yeah, he was moving around, and I didn't get a chance to take pictures with y'all. I was like, man, I didn't really get like a lot of group pictures. Like I didn't take a group picture with the Dead End guys. Like
really?
I didn't. It was just so much going on, bro. It was crazy, but yeah. Oh yeah, my dad would have definitely hollered at you. He would have.
Oh yeah, yeah, man. Listen,
yeah, my dad would have talked to you like
we had a good time. Time. Congrats again to you and the missus, man.
Thank you.
The married life is going well.
Oh, it's going great, man. I love it. I love it here. I love it here, bro. I love it here. I like to have somebody that has my back, and I had their back, bro. I love it.
There you go. Well, like I said, man, we came on here. We're going to talk about the three-peat from Kendrick Lamar. Now, the way this works, folks who are listening and watching on YouTube, thank you for watching first and foremost. We take each album and we're going to talk about Kendrick's first three albums. Now, we're talking studio albums. So in this instance, it's going to be Section 80, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, and then To Pimp a Butterfly. So let's get started. Kendrick's first championship was Section 80. Where we were. This album came out July 2nd, 2011. Do you remember where you were in 2011?
Man, first year of Dead End Hip Hop. We was like about 4.5 months in of starting Dead End Hip Hop.
Wow.
And yeah, we was just like, man, and we was always having Dead End Hip Hop conversations, but we just kind of started tapping into doing like album reviews. So this was like maybe our third or fourth album that we reviewed, like on Dead End. Like, yeah, this was early. This album came out really during the early stages of Dead End, at the beginning of Dead End. So that video you can still watch. We was in my car. I was not had my Honda SUV at the time, and we was all riding in that reviewing Kendrick Lamar, man. So that was dope. That was man.
I'm gonna take you back. I'm gonna take you back. That's when I had the 12 radio show, right?
Okay. Yep. I remember.
And I remember I had y'all on, and it was a live, for those of you who didn't know, it was a live. I had a live call-in show for 2 hours on Blog Talk Radio. It was called 12 Radio Show. And I had my boys from Dead End Hip Hop. And I didn't really know y'all like that. I think I knew Ken a little bit, maybe, but I think we were following each other on Twitter. But shout out to Monique. Monique had reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you bring these guys on?" And I brought y'all on, and we were on. And I remember the thing that stood out to me about that conversation, B, was that almost everybody that called in asked about the K Dot album.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember saying, like, I asked Mike, I was like, who the hell is K Dot?
Like, it's Kendrick Lamar,
I didn't know who
bro.
he was at the
Yeah,
time. And
yeah.
after I had you guys on, I went and listened to the album, and I was hooked. I was like, yo, who is this dude? I don't know where he is or where he's from, but he's crazy.
Yeah, typically I always send you artists that I'll be like, okay, I know Kyle gonna like this. If I
Right.
text it to you, if I text you the link personally, that means I'm like, okay, Kyle, you gonna mess with this one, bro. You gotta listen to this. You gotta listen. I'm not gonna steer you wrong. I'm not gonna steer you wrong, but I'm not gonna steer you wrong.
And you ain't missed. You have not missed anything. Any music you've texted me. This album was produced by Dave Free, J. Cole, Soundwave, Tay Beast, Terrace Martin, THC, Tommy Black, Willie B, Wildflower, and this album actually went gold. The single that they released was High Power.
Mhm.
What do you think made Kendrick outstanding on this particular album?
I think the subject matter. At the time when we had, and this was, the early 2010s, so we were kind of we were kind of still in the midst of the blog era of hip hop, but we were just leaving ringtone era.
Yes.
So, yeah. So for someone, and at this time he wasn't really super mainstream yet, but he was getting there. But I would say subject matter for him to kind of talk about, the missteps of us during the Reagan era, Reagan administration, which is the Section 8 is kind of a play on Section 8 housing in the 80s of the decade that he was born in. But yeah, it talks about women issues, talk about drug issues, conspiracy theories about the government. Like it's yeah, man, the subject matter on this album was like super, super heavy. And it was definitely refreshing. I remember that being so refreshing at the time when this album dropped. It's like, yo, this dude, it's like he can really he can probably pop on mainstream and still have this type of subject matter in the mainstream, which was severely needed at the time.
Yes,
so yeah,
yes.
it was that's one thing that stood out to me was just the subject matter on this album.
I agree. I think it's what he was rapping about was really refreshing because like nobody was touching any of the stuff that he was touching.
Mm-mm.
And really, I didn't understand it at the particular time, the first couple of times I heard it, but I kept going back to, you guys in the call-ins that we were getting on my show. And I realized that this guy had a huge following of underground. And you know how it gets kind of tricky sometimes with the underground because like your underground fans sometimes want you to stay underground.
Stay underground.
So it's like, we found our guy and he's our guy and we're gonna hold him dearly and not let him not let him
that
off.
That is so true. Oh, that is so true.
And so, it was I thought that was very key because I didn't realize how big he was on the underground. And then of course later on in the years later, I went back to, Overly Dedicated and some of his other work that, before the album actually came out. But I agree. That's just one of the things. I think the production I thought was crazy. I hadn't heard anything like this. What did you're big on production. You do production yourself. What did you think about the production of this album?
Oh yeah, the production was dope. I'm trying to remember the name of the production crew because they used to be a part of TDE. It was what was the name of that production crew? It was a production crew that consists of Soundwave, Willie B, Dave Free. What was they called? Oh, it was a production team that was only used by Top Dog Entertainment. Golly, I'm drawing the blank, but the production was dope. I mean, outside of them, J. Cole did his thing with On the High Power, which was the single. That was like the closest that we got to a J. Cole Kendrick collab at the time. So I know people was begging for them to do like a collab project, especially after that song that came out. So yeah, the production was great. I mean, for this dude to be West Coast, it sounded something that like you would listen to it and you wouldn't even know where it was from. I think that's why I liked about it. Like you didn't hear it and be like, oh, this sounds like some New York stuff or it sounds like some Southern stuff. Like you can't really, tell if it was sounding like a West Coast type album. So I thought the production was great, man. I love when I can listen to a production or listen to an album and can't tell what region of the United States that is from. So I think that's what I liked about the production so much on here.
As far as Kendrick and his rapping, did you hear like the influences of Pac or Snoop or Nas? Did you hear any of the influences in the music that you heard?
The subject matter I would say is more influential towards Pac.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example, Keisha song.
Yes.
To me, that's the 2011 version of Brenda's Got a Baby. I mean, if you really kind of just go about, a black woman, kind of going through her pain, going through her, it's yeah, becoming never becoming a prostitute, all that stuff, and the fact that he named that track, he put it at track 11, which at the time that was how old his younger sisters was. So he like, I wrote this song pretty much with his inspiration of his little sister who was 11, which is why he called it why it was track 11. So it was, I mean, just genius how that was put together.
Yeah,
So
I think so too.
yeah, but yeah, that Keisha song is definitely one. I remember hearing that. I'm like, yo, this is Brenda's Got a Baby 2011. Like clearly, it was clear. It was dope.
I definitely could hear the influence, and then later on hearing him talk about being influenced by Pac, obviously Snoop. He did mention Nas as well, and then after I heard him say that, I could actually go back and hear that in his lyrics. All right, so now the next question I got for you be, you can only pick one track.
Okay.
What's your favorite track on this album?
Man, I think I'm gonna say Rigor Mortis, man. Rigor Mortis. Shout out to Willie B. I'm gonna go Rigor Mortis on that one, man. That damn horn sample, that beat. Oh my god! And the way Kendrick was rapping on that thing, he had to remind folks like, look, I ain't no slouch on this mic. I love when MCs got to remind you and be like, look, okay, I can make these songs, I can construct these songs well, but do not mess with me when it comes to this microphone. And Rigor Mortis is a perfect example of Kendrick's ability to flow and his lyrics and everything, man. It's amazing. So Rigor Mortis is definitely the one that just, I remember when I first heard that was the first song that I was like, I gotta repeat this. Even though I'm listening to the album, it's like I gotta hear this one more time. I gotta hear it one more time. So yeah, Rigor Mortis is mine.
Yeah, my favorite is Poor Man's Dream. Man, listen, that's joint.
GLC.
Yeah, GLC. It's rare for me even now to listen to that song and don't listen to it again. Like I love that song, man. The hook was catchy. It was just one of those joints that just jumped out at me on my first listen.
Yeah.
And I'm always kind of trying to be cognizant of the song that captures me on the first listen. And I was hooked from that moment on. So that if I had to pick one, that's my favorite. I can't argue with Rigor Mortis. So I mean, he spazzed out on the track.
Man, yeah. No, Poor Man's Dream is good because I like the fact. I think this is what Kendrick is so clever with the song titles. Like how it was Poor Man's Dream, POE, which is Edgar Allan Poe, the classic American writer. Poe's Cause of Death was, I think, inconclusive to his many, so like, I don't know. It's Poor Man's Dream. I think, and I think it was another way on Southern pronunciation of poor, how they always say Poe or whatever. So I don't know. I thought Kendrick way of doing that was dope. And then having GLC, because at the time I was like, man, that's the first time hearing GLC since he was on Late Registration by Kanye West. So it was kind of cool to hear GLC on there again.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And so it wasn't that actually surprised me because we come from an era like, you get to know people by the people that they're associated with.
Yep.
So it's like, wait a minute, GLC, ain't he from Chicago? Why is he with this guy from
Well, because I think because Kendrick's dad is from Chicago. So like part of his family roots is rooted in Chicago. So Makes sense. Think that was some, Chicago love right there.
Makes sense. Next question. What song, if any, could you have done without on this album?
Blow My High. Smokers only. Members only. It's called Members Only, Blow My High. It's the only one. That's the only one I would probably, it was because it was kind of, they was sampling like the Aaliyah joint. It was like really, it sounded like it was chopped and screwed a little bit or whatever. And it had like a little mixture, a sample of UGK, Pimp C and stuff. But I don't know, for some reason, I feel like that song felt out of place.
Okay.
For the rest of the album. But it wasn't whack. It just felt out of place. Like it didn't feel like it didn't fit with the rest of the album.
And what's interesting? We always talk about that because like, even on an album that you deem a great album, even if the album is a quote unquote classic, there may be one or two songs that may be out of place. There may be one or two songs that you probably be like, oh, well, it's okay. Like I'll listen to it, but like it doesn't have to, it's not going to be perfect. So honestly, I didn't have and again, it's not a perfect album.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a song that I would take off this album or that I
Okay.
could have done without.
Okay.
I was pretty solid on this one. Championship moment for this album. Pitchfork placed it 45 on its top 50 albums of 2011. Complex named it the 7th best album of 2011. I mentioned a little earlier that the album did go gold. This album didn't sell a lot of records, but
going gold in 2011 is still still
Yes.
great. I mean, you know, with streaming and all that stuff, going 500K, that's still pretty damn good. I mean, now you got big artists now selling 35K in a week, you know, so this shows you the era that we in now. But him doing 500K was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, and it was what they deemed slow gold, but it's still gold nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it didn't really have a lot of it didn't have any chart toppers. So, you know, for it to go gold, I think still is an accomplishment.
But it got him the eyes of Dr. Dre, which alludes to the next album that he released under Aftermath. So
the second championship,
yeah.
Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. This album was released October 12th, 2012. B, do you know what you was doing in 2012?
Yeah, man, I was still being a single man out here in these streets. living it up, man. Living in the good old city of Atlanta as a single man.
Sir. Yes, sir. Well, I was married. Still am. 2012, we had Skylar, our daughter, in 2011.
Oh wow.
So yes, bruh, she
wait a minute. She's 13?
She'll be 13 at the end of September.
Bruh, yeah, I remember when she was like, yeah, I remember she was like tiny, like not even 2 years old, bro. That's crazy.
It's crazy, man, because
they grow so fast.
I was telling my kids this the other day. I'm like, look, I said, y'all don't know this. I was like, but there are people who have watched you guys grow on social media. I said, that's how long I've been on social media. I said, the fact that, you know, our oldest is about to graduate from grad school. I said, people remember when you were in middle school.
Bruh, that's wow.
It's been that long.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing, being married, raising these children in 2012. Good Kid, M.A.A.D City was produced by a slew of producers, just to name a few: DJ Da High, Hit Boy, Jack Splash, Just Blaze, Pharrell Williams, Rocky, Scoop DeVille, Sky Hutch, Soundwave, T-Minus, Taboo, the aforementioned Terrace Martin, THC, The Business. This album went triple platinum. The following singles were released. The Recipe was the first single that was released April 3rd, 2012. Swimming Pools, Drank was released July 31st, 2012. Backseat Freestyle was released January 7th, 2013. Poetic Justice released January 15th, 2013. And Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe was released March 13th, 2013. So B, what made this an outstanding album for Kendrick?
He made a movie. You know, it was pretty much a film in audio form. Shout out to Prince Paul, Prince Among Thieves, which I still consider one of the all-time greatest audio film albums ever made. But this was definitely dope. I mean, this was definitely, you know, if Kendrick was inspired from that album, he did a great job of following up and producing this great piece of art, man. This album, this is the album. If I was to say Kendrick has a classic album, I would say this is probably his classic album. Even though, which is funny, I think objectively I'm saying this, but personally, I think I still slightly like Section 80 a little bit better than this one. But if this one is deemed as the classic, I won't argue it. I won't be like, oh, you're tripping or whatever. Or most people will probably put this as their favorite Kendrick album, and I'm not mad at that. But yeah, this was, I mean, he MCA on here, like, yeah, man. I mean, hell, Jay-Z even hopped on Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe remix. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I mean, the story, you know, just like how the interludes, this did something that we haven't really heard interludes really do since, you know, Little Brother and Redman, which make the interludes make us laugh. Like, give us, like, every time we heard the interlude and hear his mom and his dad, we were laughing. We were just cracking up. We was like, oh my God, this just sound like some real shit, regular shit that we would hear from our homies, you know, parents or whatever. So I think that's what was so dope about the Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. Another thing, it did the baby picture. Nas is still the godfather of baby pictures, bro. No,
Yes.
ever since Nas did that with O.M.A.A.D, almost every single rapper, damn near every single rapper has had a baby picture as an artwork, whether if it was a single or for an album. And it's like, you see the baby picture of Kendrick, it's like, here we go.
Yep.
Like every time you see that baby picture, you know it's for real. But no, man, this album was this was good. This was definitely good. I was worried because I was like, okay, he's gonna be Aftermath, but he was still in the top dog. I think Dre it was dope that Dre let him do his thing. He wasn't changing nothing that was going on with their formula. He just let them do. He said, I'm just gonna put my Aftermath Interscope stamp on it to put more ears to it, and that's what it did. And that's exactly what it did. So yeah, man, I loved it. And the name of the production crew, I found out they call it Digiphonics. That was the name of the production crew for Top Dog. But yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I agree 1,000%, man. I think this album, this is the one that took off. Like this is the one that set everything up for Kendrick. There's so many levels to this album. Like you said, the storytelling. I come from the old school. You come from the old school. I really appreciate great storytelling, and this is literally a book. It's a movie, in audio form. And like you said, his parents in the interlude, like especially when his dad was talking about, "You got my dominoes."
You got my dominoes.
It was hilarious.
Bruh, it was so great, man.
And like you said, I still chuckle when I hear those interludes. I still chuckle to this day. But this album, man, from start to finish, it doesn't disappoint. And he gives you a visual of, being someplace where like how we would have been at that age too. You see a girl, you meet a girl, and your body starts talking to you like, hey, you can go over here and smash. You go over there to smash, and then you get jumped.
Set up.
Some
neighborhood shit, man.
Yeah, like that can happen. And it definitely could have happened and to Kendrick in Compton or any other surrounding LA city. And even the part where the interlude, he's like, we want to know where your mama stay, where your grandma stay, where your daddy stay. I mean, like those are serious, and those questions in certain parts of LA the wrong answer could get you hurt or killed or both. And I say killed.
Bro.
But yeah, this album, man, I'm with you. I don't argue with people about this album because I know that most hip hop fans who love this album hold it very dear. So I'm like you. I don't have it as high as Section 80. It's slightly beneath it, but it's still an incredible album. It's an album that I still listen to this day. And it still goes, man. It still goes to this day. What's your favorite track on this album?
Man, favorite track. I would probably have to go with "Sing About Me." I'm dying of thirst. I think that's my favorite one, man. Like the fact that he was on the "Sing About Me," he was writing from the perspective of his sister who was listening to Section 80, and he was like, and she was listening to a track from Section 80 that coincide with this song. Like it was crazy how he brought that all together on "Sing About Me." I'm down to third, and then the beat switch up, and you're talking about his a dude losing his brother and all that stuff over some senseless violence, and yeah, man, just dying of thirst. Our black people just dying of thirst, man. Like that was so deep. So yeah, sing About Me. I'm down of thirst is my favorite track on this.
My favorite track, man. This is tough because there's a couple of different ways I can go, but the title track, "Good Kid, M.A.A.D City." I love it. I love it. That's probably my favorite track. And the build up, I think, really gets me. The build up in that particular song gets me. And like I said, it's interesting, man, because my listening to Kendrick has expanded over the years, but I found that when I go back and listen to his albums, I usually listen to these three albums like
really
consecutive. Yeah, I don't if I feel like listening to Kendrick, it's usually these three albums.
It's one of them 3 albums that you pop on.
No, it's usually all three. Like,
oh, okay. You listen to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just hit play.
Okay.
That's it. I just hit play.
Ain't mad at that. Not mad at that at all.
What song could you have done without on this album?
Man, what song could I have done without? I hate to cheat and say swimming pools, even though I liked it better in the context of the album.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when swimming pools first came out, I wasn't super in love with it, like in love with it like that. But in the context of the album, it was definitely better. Like sometimes that can happen. I mean, we've all experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like the single, but then when you hear in the context of the album, you're like, oh yeah, this shit, it makes sense. It's dope. So that's the same way with swimming pools. If I had to take one off, it would probably be the one of the singles, swimming pool.
You know what? For me, unpopular opinion, Poetic Justice.
That's no people. That's
Justice.
I don't think that's unpopular. I don't think that's unpopular.
You know what's funny, B?
Yeah.
After it's funny because like when all of this beef and stuff started brewing with Kendrick and Drake, I had actually forgotten that they did this song. That's how much I pushed this song because I skipped the song.
Yep.
I remember I was in a club. I was in a club somewhere in Atlanta, and the DJ tried to play Poetic Justice, and I'm like, you can't really dance off this song. And so people were trying to move, and it was like it just didn't look right.
It didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. I was just like, nah, this ain't. And I understood why they were playing it because at the time, it was a top 10 song in the country. But it wasn't a song you could dance to. It's something you play in your car, but it wasn't that you could dance to. But it's probably my one blemish, and that's no knock on Drake or Kendrick. It's a decent song. I just if it were up to me, I'd have taken that song off the album. Championship moment. I mean, there were a lot of championship moments. Just to name a few. This album was nominated for Top Rap Album 2013, Billboard Music Awards 2013, American Music Awards. It won the Album of the Year at the BET Awards. He earned 5 Grammy nominations for Best Album of the Year, Best Rap Album, Best New Artist, Best Rap Sung Performance. And I think the joint he did with Mary J. Blige, Now or Never, which was, I think was that
was on a deluxe version.
Yeah, it was on a deluxe version. But this album is famous because it lost Best Rap Album for the Grammy for Best Rap Album to Macklemore and Ryan Lewis.
The Heist. Oh man,
Heist.
it was I remember everybody was just so mad, and to the point to where Macklemore texts Kendrick Lamar and stuff like a little apology, and it's just like, bruh, you deserve it, man. You deserve it. I give you the no, you want it fair and square. Like it's cool, and you know what I'm saying. It's all good.
But and I'll be honest, I never heard The Heist, but Macklemore knew he shouldn't have won that album. He was probably as surprised as anybody else that night,
bruh. He should not. Yeah. I mean, The Heist was everywhere, but I mean, come on, clearly, I don't know. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I think it started. You remember the little trending thing that was going on called the Oscars So White? I think that started the whole Grammys So White like that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was, again, this is 2013, but there was public outrage on social media, a lot of backlash. It was the talk for the next few weeks about how Kendrick got robbed in broad daylight, at the Grammys. And I think the Grammys in LA. So yeah, he was in his backyard too. So to have 5 Grammy nominations and to be not, for one, it's a big thing to be nominated for Album of the Year, and to get that and have it taken from you by Macklemore, again, no disrespect.
Yeah, but we had also important albums back in the 90s and 2000s that didn't win Grammys either. So I mean, there you have it.
What do you think the impact was on this on Good Kid, M.A.A.D City?
The impact? I mean, it was a huge impact. I mean, it was a big impact for Kendrick, and it also was an impact for labels. I think this was a good example of like for major labels that kind of sign up under the smaller up and coming labels. Let them do them. Like, don't try sometimes whenever you see an Aftermath or you see like a big known record label, you be it's like most of the time it's like, oh man, they messing up his sound. This is what he's known for, or this is why he's doing this, why he trying this sound out, why he trying to piece to this. Like, to me, I feel like Good Kid, Mad City did not try to piece to nothing. Like, it was Dre literally was just kind of like, y'all do y'all thing, I mix it or whatever for y'all, or engineer it. That's pretty much it. But I feel like I think they did a great job of letting Top Dog handle the creativity of this album and not messing up with the ingredients that was going on, especially at that time for Top Dog. Top Dog had a great formula going on at that time. So I think for Aftermath just to put their stamp on it and that was it, I think that definitely impacted on like bigger record labels to be like, hey, look, if these guys have a good formula going on and a good fan base, just don't mess it up. Just let them do them and we just put our stamp on it and help it get ears to the world.
You know what? You got me thinking. Did Dre even get a producer credit for this? I know that he did the song, The Recipe, which was on the deluxe, but I don't even know if he got producer credits on this album.
I mean, he just mixed him and Mixed by Ali. They engineered the album.
Okay,
but that was it. That's pretty much Dre's hand in the album. Like, no, he pretty much let them, the producers, Digiphonics, y'all did y'all thing on Section 80. Let's keep this thing going. Like, he did not mess that sauce up at all.
Okay. Then we get to the third championship, the three-peat, To Pimp a Butterfly. This album was released March 15th, 2015. B, what were you doing in 2015 when this one dropped?
2015, man. Yeah, I was still a single young man enjoying the ATL single life, brother. I was still enjoying it. I can say I was definitely enjoying it. So
I remember this out. I remember this review because for those of you listening, if you haven't figured it out, my man B is a member of Dead End Hip Hop. If you don't know who Dead End Hip Hop is, look him up. I mean, only one of the biggest internet hip hop sites and places where you want to get the best breakdowns of everything. And I'm not just saying that because they're my boys, but they are. But I remember everybody was clamoring for this review. And
yeah, they were, bro.
They were like on y'all neck. Like the album came out like on a Tuesday and they were looking for a review like on Wednesday.
Like, give us time. Give us time. And then it's funny because this is the album that Kendrick Lamar even shouted us out.
Yes.
We got a shout out from Kendrick Lamar himself on the MTV interview about Rob Markman. I think that's his name.
Markman. Right, yeah, Rob Markman. Yeah.
Rob Markman, yeah. And he shouted us out because we peeped the original title, which was to be To Pimp a Caterpillar. It was gonna be Tupac acronyms, to pimp a caterpillar. So yeah, man, he shouted us out, man. That was wild. I remember my Twitter was on fire that day, bro. I mean, all of our Twitters was on fire. They were just like, man, y'all see this? Y'all see this? Like, yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, that's so crazy because you think about it. Kendrick Lamar doesn't do a lot of interviews.
No, he don't.
And for him to do that interview and he didn't just say, "Oh yeah, I saw this thing on the internet." He's like, "Yeah, I saw Dead End Hip Hop today," and they were breaking it down, and I was like, "What?" He said Dead End Hip Hop on his interview. That was crazy.
Yeah, man. That is wild. That is so wild, bro.
Yeah, man, and it's hard to believe it's coming up on 10 years, man. That's crazy.
10 years. Crazy. He won a Grammy for this one.
Yes, indeed. This one's produced by a slew of producers: Boy Wonder, Flipper, Flying Lotus, Knowledge, Kaz, Lawrence Dobson, Love Dragon, Pharrell Williams, Rocky, Soundwave, Tay Beast, Taz Arnold, Terrace Martin, Thundercat, Tommy Black, Who Are I? And this album went platinum. Released the singles I, which was released September 16th, 2014. The Black of the Berry, released February 9th, 2015. King Kunta, released March 24th, 2015. All Right, released June 30th, 2015. These Walls was released October 13th, 2015. Man, what made this album as dope as it was?
It was dope as hell for him to have a heavenly, he pretty much blended some of my favorite genres all together in one album with jazz, soul, funk, all scattered throughout this album. You know, I mean, I feel like, and I mean, I was hearing some influences from old OG West Coast cats like King Kunta. The beat, man, that bass line, that's DJ Quick all day.
Yes.
DJ Quick. That song is so DJ Quick. Like that is DJ Quick. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my God. The fact that he had got George Clinton on here, had Ron Isley from the Isley Brothers on here, like he had everything, bro. Like, and I mean, you know, just even talking about the topics, you know, just self-love and hate, fame, depression, violence in America. You know, some of the topics were definitely inspired. I can definitely see if he was inspired by Public Enemy, like by Chuck D, as far as where he was going with the political stuff. Because hell, all right, that ended up being literally like the song for Black Lives Matter movement. Like, all right was the anthem.
It's
like
still the protest anthem.
It was the protest anthem, bro. Like during that time, you know, you had Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, like you had all that going on, and All Right was the perfect song for that, man. It was just like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was almost like prophesized how he made that song and he knew what was about to go down was gonna happen. And yeah, it's crazy. Complexion with Rhapsody was dope as hell. You know, and the fact that, you know, you kept getting little snippets of this poem he kept reading in each of the songs. And it was like, what is this poem? And at the very end of Mortal Man, he was reading this poem to Tupac, which was crazy. It was, I was just like, wow. Like, yeah, it was wild,
blew me
man.
away.
Yeah.
That's
away, crazy.
Man. I mean, like you said, at the end of every song, he's giving you a piece of a poem. And he finally, at the last song, Mortal Man, he finishes the poem, and there's an interview or a conversation that he has with an audio version of Tupac. And it sounds so real. I mean, like I was listening to it the other day, beat, and it still sounds like he's having a conversation with Tupac. And, you know, of course, you know, for the millions of people who think Tupac is still alive, they were pretty excited about that. But yeah, I love this album. This full disclosure for those who are listening and watching, this is my favorite. I think this is Kendrick's best album.
This is it for you.
I rank them To Pimp a Butterfly, Section 80, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. I know nobody else ranks them like that. That's not up for debate because that's my personal ranking. Most people, or at least the people that I've come in contact with, friends and, you know, other people that I know on social media, they'll say, you know, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City's first, and then, you know, whatever else falls in line. But I put this one first, man. This album, I think it flows. I think it goes from top to bottom. I think this is for me, this is probably the last album that like I was super excited to hear and I wasn't like disappointed. And he gave us everything from subject matter to, you know, just the overall theme of the album. It just flows and it's a smooth flow. And he takes you up and I mean, when you hear You for the first time, like I'm like, wait a minute, what is like? How did he do his voice? Like he literally transports you to where he is. How much $1 costs?
Man,
I mean, so
Izzy on that one, man, is this he was so perfect with that.
Layla Hathaway is sprinkled throughout this album. I love Layla Hathaway.
And I love me some Layla too, bro. I love me some Layla. Man, I love me some Layla.
Yeah, her voice is so melodic, man. I mean, like, so I just think that I'm not gonna say it's a perfect album, but to me, it's close. People will tell you, like, I'm stingy with my 5 mics. I would give this album, and I'm not just saying just because I like the album, I love the album, but I would give it 5 mics. I really do believe it's a 5 mic album. It's one of the few albums I think in the last 10, 15 years that I could say honestly is a 5 mic album. Now, there's some albums that I won't argue about.
Right.
This one right here, I'll argue with you about it being 5 mics.
Dang, I mean, yeah, it's so good. Hell, he took the B-sides, the like during the recording sessions from this album and made the Untitled Unmastered, made a B-side album EP off of this. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically his throwaways became an EP.
Became bruh. And they were dope as hell. It was like, damn. Like, yeah, amazing.
What's your favorite track on this album?
Favorite track? Man.
Tough, right?
I love Mama so much, and part of me is a little bit biased because I've been following that producer Knowledge for years. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was following Knowledge when he was releasing like fucking 10 beat tapes in a month on Bandcamp. Like I mean, like I've been following. So for him to get that look, I was like super duper happy for him.
Wow.
So I would say Mama, man. Mama, that definitely is because I remember that was an instrumental I heard like years ago on one of his beat tapes. So when
Really?
I heard, that's
Wow.
not a new beat. So it was just like when I heard that, I was like, holy shit. Like I got that on vinyl. I got that record with that beat on vinyl. So it was just like it was dope to hear Kendrick spit over that. I was just like, holy, because I remember hearing it and I thought like, oh man, that beat's so fucking dope. I love this when it gets to this track. Like, yeah. So hearing Mama, So the bias in me, because I love Knowledge so much. I love him as a producer so much. I gotta go with Mama.
I never heard that story. As long as I know you, I never heard that story before, but I agree. Mama's my favorite.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Man, we got the same one. Okay.
Listen,
That's crazy.
man, that joint, it just does something to me, man. It just does something. The first time I heard it, I was like, whoa. Like it's one of those moments where you just kind of, because I distinctly remember when I heard this album for the first time, I wasn't doing anything. Like I literally had stopped because I wanted to just sit and be with this album. And I remember when I heard Mama for the first time, I played it again. I didn't even go to the next track. I played it again. And I was hooked. Yeah, so I'm not surprised we got the same one. But that's a dope story. I did not know that beat existed prior. Okay, that's good.
Oh yeah.
So he
yeah,
had it on a
man.
beat tape. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
man. I bet that's how much I've been following Knowledge. So that shit was so dope. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you something,
Go ahead.
Sue. Since this album seems to be very high on your list,
Mm-hmm.
and based on my tweet I tweeted earlier, that kind of got people not really up in arms, but they just kind of like, oh, okay, that's a hell of a statement. Where would you rank this album? Is this album your top 10 hip hop album to come out the West Coast?
Yes.
If you had to list your top 10 albums to come out of the West Coast, is this in that top 10?
Definitely.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I'm not just saying it because I'm a fan of Kendrick or I'm a fan of this album. I am a fan of West Coast music. Like I grew up in South Carolina and coming up in the 80s, like, and I make people laugh when I say this. I could, in my hometown of Florence, South Carolina, I could get my hands on a West Coast tape before I could get my hands on a Run DMC tape. And in proximity, it's a 12-hour drive to New York. It's a cross-country drive to get to LA.
Yeah.
But I got exposed to, it was probably Eazy-E first in '87. My boy bought he bought the NWA and the Posse tape.
Oh, Indiana and the Posse. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
He bought the NWA and the Posse tape, and I got hooked from there. And then we got the Eazy tape. Then we got, of course, Straight Outta Compton. This is '87 and then '88. And so I'm in middle school. So middle school going into high school. And so I was hooked because one, I didn't know anything about this music. And two, it sounded so different. So like I've always been, I don't want to say biased, but I've always loved West Coast music. So I'm one of the few people probably from the South who has, I have a great appreciation for the West, great appreciation for the North, and definitely appreciation for the South. But yeah, to answer your question, top 10.
It's top 10. Okay, yeah, because I tweeted, and I remember I shot this album to you. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it yet, but Blue and Exile, Below the Heavens.
You know what, man? I started on it and I got halfway through, got called into a meeting at work, and I was like, I need to sit and listen to it. So I'm gonna go back and listen to that this week. I
tweeted it. I said that's the top. Now, whether if it's 10 or 9, it probably is. But I say Blue and Exile, Below the Heavens is one of the top 10 best albums to come out of the West Coast. And like I was like, yeah, that's dope. Man, that album is so special to me. Really?
I'm halfway through it.
Came out in 2007. Yeah, man, that album is, oh man, that album
and
is so
people love
special.
that album. I did not know it was as popular.
Bruh, if you look at my Twitter, a lot of people were like, agree. They like, agree. They were like, shit, not even just West Coast, just all the time. I said, okay, I ain't going that far, but I will say it's in my list of top 10 albums to come out of the West Coast. Yeah, I definitely put that in there.
Now I'm gonna give you a preview, B. There is gonna be there is going to be a discussion on this particular podcast about two gargantuan albums from the West Coast, Doggy Style and The Chronic.
Oh man.
So I'm going to ruffle a few feathers, but this is going to be. We're going to do it by criteria because
Okay.
anybody can say, okay, well, hey, this album is better, that album is better. But if you give it a criteria, then you have some parameters to work by. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that discussion. But yeah, I think this is definitely a top 10. This is definitely
okay.
top 10.
So you did this will fall in the top 10 coming out of the West Coast. Okay. Huh.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Were there any songs on this album that you could have done without?
Any songs I could have done without? Maybe You Ain't Gotta Lie.
Mm-hmm.
You Ain't Gotta Lie. If I had to, if you put a gun in my head and asked me to take one off, I would probably say You Ain't Gotta Lie.
Same.
Oh, really? Okay, bam.
Yeah,
We the same one now. That's crazy. We got the same favorite track and the same song we can live without. Yeah,
it's not a bad song.
Not a bad song, but it's
just like, and I mean, that was the saying back in the day. You ain't got a lot to kick it, when we were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's cool. It's not even a skip for me. It's just like, I think the other tracks is that much better. I remember distinctly, me and Mike Seatown from Dead End Hip Hop, we had talked about the fact that I came out because I was I one of I was the first single that was released.
Yeah, I love my.
And he told me something that he was very key. He said, man, you got to be careful with these singles. He said, because a lot of people will hear the single and they'll judge the album before they even hear the single. Yep. He said, you have to listen to this album in its entirety, because if you listen to I as a single, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you listen to it where it's placed in the album and the context surrounding it, it makes total sense. And he was dead on. He was dead on point with that.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm even since then. That's probably right around the time I stopped. If particularly if there's an album coming out and I really want to hear it, I won't listen to the singles leading up to the album. I will wait until the album comes out and I'll hear it in its entirety. This album had so many championship moments. It was critically acclaimed. He won 7 Grammy. He had seven Grammy nominations in 2016. He won Best Rap Album, Album of the Year nomination, 4 additional nominations for collaborations. He had a total of 11 Grammy nominations. And this was, this album was heralded as one of the greatest albums of that particular year, and one of the greatest albums in hip hop history. Just really depends on where you want to put it. What do you think the impact was on this album?
See, I guess, I hate people were saying this, and I had to like school some people. How they was like, yeah, man, this is the first hip hop album that kind of have like jazz infusing and all that stuff. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Are you freaking crazy? Are you? Come on, y'all, stop it. Like stop saying that. like stop. Like the Roots is not here. Like Daylight. Like stop it. Right. Diggable Planets. Like stop, y'all. Like stop. But I mean, I guess for the younger generation at the time, this was their oh shit, he's pulling from jazz, like he's pulling from this, he's pulling from that, like, oh, this is kind of cool for folks that wasn't familiar. Not to sound like an old geezer, but me and Kyle, we were there. Okay, we were there during the earlier stages of hip hop, and we was outside when all this was happening. So for a lot of younger generation or the blog era hip hop fans, this was like a holy shit. He's pulling from jazz. He's pulling from funk. He's pulling from this. Like, this is fucking amazing. Like, this is subject matter again. Like, this is he's touching on some stuff that wasn't really touched in the mainstream since Public Enemy. So that was something that was kind of a bright spot as well. So I know Killer Mike was also touching on some subjects around that same time this album came out too. But yeah, the only ones you really had in the mainstream rap. I mean, yeah, you can find it in the underground and everything else, but on the mainstream level, this was big. So yeah, that definitely had an impact of like, okay, yeah, you can go out here and make an album talking, being conscious and still selling and still winning awards and still, all that stuff, critically acclaimed, all that stuff, and not even trying to, make a party record. Like
Right.
this album don't have no party records. You know what I'm
not at
saying?
all.
Like this don't have no record you gonna play in the club. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the impact right there.
Like you said, I mean, probably one of the funkiest songs on the album, All Right, produced by Pharrell Williams, was is a protest anthem.
Right.
So I mean, like, there's not much more that you can get from that. Overall, in conclusion, man, I think Kendrick's three-peat is, I think at the end of the day, you'll be able to put his three-peat up there with a lot of different people.
Oh yeah.
And he can definitely hold his own.
Oh yeah.
I think these albums definitely launched where he was going to take off from, and launched him into superstardom. And, you know, it helped us, you know, particularly for fans who like found K Dot before he was Kendrick Lamar. When they found K Dot, I think these albums, I know that those fans like to go back to these albums because, you know, this is really before he really blew up. Well, the Section 8 is probably the album that he had before he blew up. I would probably say Good Kid, M.A.A.D City put him.
That was
He was a household name after that.
Yep.
But he was still there at Section 80. But overall, if you're listening or watching this episode and you have not heard any of these albums, do yourself a favor, go back and listen. I promise you won't be disappointed. Before we get out of here, B, man, tell folks where they can find you, where they can catch you guys, you and the crew at.
Yes. YouTube.com/Dead and Hip Hop. Dead and Hip Hop on Twitter, at BZ430, all across the socials, the Instagram, my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/BZ430, twitch.tv/Dead and Hip Hop. You can look, we stream live reactions on there on our Twitch channel. So yeah, man, catch all that stuff, man. Everything is across the board. We pretty much keep everything as consistent as possible. So
for sure. And you guys are here for the first time. Again, thank you for checking out this, because this is a new podcast. This is a new venture for me. The Rap Soul, like I said, this is the intersection of rap and R&B from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We're going to talk about artists. We're going to talk about artists from that era. We're going to do album reviews. We're going to have different things to provide for you. So come back. You can follow the Rap Soul Podcast on all the socials, Rap Soul Podcast. There's a Reddit channel. If you want to take this discussion there, you can take it to Reddit, Rap Soul Podcast. YouTube channel as well, Rap Soul Podcast. So we're a little bit of everywhere. And of course, you can follow me at 12 Kyle, Rap Soul Podcast, or you can follow me at 12 Kyle across the socials. Again, that's going to do it for us. So for my boy BZ430, again, thanks for coming through, my brother.
Oh, man,
Appreciate
thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
folks,
you.
he will be back, and we will talk about
European
rock.
Yes, we will. I can't wait.
So that's going to do it for me. And again, thanks again for checking out the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Thank you for listening. This concludes the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the podcast on social media. And feel free to continue this discussion on our Reddit page. More importantly, share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. Until next time, 5,000.